Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lucy and I share videos about chronic fatigue syndrome, long COVID and other similar conditions. And today's video is about being dismissed with one of these conditions and the impact that has. So not just the impact on how it makes you feel, but also the impact on your beliefs and how that might impact you recovering. So I'm not a medical professional and this isn't medical or mental health advice. One of the hardest things about having one of these conditions is that other people don't understand, and it's not, they're not conditions that are well understood in general. So to some extent it's understandable why people don't quite get it, but it can be really difficult for the person who's unwell to be misunderstood or dismissed, especially by family members, friends or doctors. And it can feel, I would go as far as saying it could potentially be traumatic for people, because they are essentially looking for help with some really basic needs, like how they're gonna get food, how they're gonna be cared for in a very basic way. And if people don't believe that they're unwell, then of course it's going to trigger fear of, you know, how they'll survive or how they'll get by. And of course then, like, many people can't work. So anyone who's experiencing these conditions will completely understand the fear that's related to being dismissed, and also the feelings that come up of rejection, of disappointment, of not really feeling like people understand you, because often people with these conditions are people who keep busy, who are really productive, who are achievement orientated, who are perfectionists. So they're not the type of people to normally slack. I can't imagine they'd be the type of people to pretend they're unwell. Certainly I was the type of person that would never want to take sick leave even when I was sick. So I suppose it can feel as though people don't see who you really are, that they think you're someone different, that they think you're pretending when you're not. And that can be quite unnerving when you're really unwell and you need help. And you need people to believe you in order to get that help, or at least that's what you think at the time. When you're really unwell, you think, if people could just understand, then I'd be able to get the help that I need. But that's not always the case. So obviously, as I've said, it's really difficult to be dismissed, and people with these conditions will have many times that they've been dismissed, or stories that are pretty shocking about being dismissed by medical professionals. So what's the outcome of being dismissed? Well, it means that we want to stand firmly in the idea that this is a real physical illness, and we want to try and prove that to others. And of course it is a real physical illness. So in some ways that's not a bad quest to undertake, but it can impact your own belief system and how you think about recovery in the long run, if that's something that you're trying to do on a regular basis. So what messages could you be sending to yourself if you're trying to convince others that you're not well? And when I say try to convince others, I'm talking generally. This could be in a very subtle way. It could be talking about your symptoms. It could be telling others you're not well enough to do certain activities. And whilst all of that might be very valid to do, just think about, what is your intention behind it? Is your intention to try to prove to others that you're not well? Because unfortunately, sometimes this sort of mentality can stick, where we feel so affected by people dismissing us or not understanding that it's a real illness. It's a sore point, and they want to carry through with making sure others understand they're unwell. But if you're giving that message to other people on a regular basis, you're also giving that message to yourself, and that belief will impact how you are physically and how easy it is for you to feel better and to recover, I suppose. So some of what I talk about is Dr. John Sarno's approach, which is that emotions cause symptoms. And these might not be emotions that you're aware of. They could be emotions that you're unaware of. But your belief that you're unwell also has a huge impact on keeping you stuck. So you do need to work on the idea that actually I am physically healthy, I am physically okay. This is what helped me a lot with reducing symptoms and getting back to normal life and doing more activities. So it's important to reflect on the reasons why you might be convincing others that you're unwell, or wanting to make it very clear to others that you're not well. So you might be giving your body the message that this is serious, I am unwell. And maybe you also want a physical cure. You want to be able to take a medication that cures you, or you want to take a supplement, or find something that then explains why you were physically unwell, so that you can tell other people, this is how I got better because I took this medication. What it turned out was it was, my mitochondria, or it was my some other physical thing. I can't even think of something. So if you're in this mindset, there is a chance you're going to get stuck, and you're not going to be open-minded to the role that beliefs play and the role that emotions play in recovering. And of course, everything I just mentioned is a natural process. Like, if you have been dismissed and it's been a really difficult experience for you to be dismissed, and maybe at the time you were concerned you weren't going to get any help, then of course it's natural to then want to try to convince others that you are unwell and that you do need help, and that what you're experiencing is valid. And what you are experiencing is valid. I'm not saying you're not unwell, you are. And what you're experiencing is physical. There's no doubt about that. Physical in the sense that there are symptoms. But the main cause could be really impacted by your beliefs around it, and also by emotions that you're not dealing with. And you might be completely unaware of those emotions. I was. So it's not something that you can just, you don't necessarily realize this by yourself. You sometimes need to do a bit of digging and understand how to get in touch with emotions you're not aware of. So one thing that's related to this topic is talking about symptoms to others and communicating to others about being unwell and how that impacts us. So in some of the brain retraining programs that are advertised, I know that some of the advice given on those programs is not to talk to people about your symptoms. And I'm guessing the reason for this is around beliefs. So, if you are talking about your symptoms, then you might be thinking about being unwell, and that might feed into the belief that you're unwell. Obviously, beliefs play a really big role in our health, but I think what's more important is to consider the intentions behind why you're saying what you're saying, and just bring some awareness to that. So if you're telling someone, I'm having a really bad day, I have an awful headache, I'm not feeling well, just ask yourself, why am I telling that person that? Because if you're telling them that because you just want someone to understand that you're having a bad day and you need some support, that's a completely normal thing to do and completely natural, and I can't see why that's necessarily going to be a bad thing or a problem. However, if you were saying to someone, I'm having a really bad day and I've got an awful headache, and you notice that one of the reasons you're saying that is because there's a part of you that really feels like you need to prove that you're unwell to others, or that you really need to be cared for, and that maybe this part isn't used to getting care and really wants to keep getting care. Just notice that. And again, even though I said the other example wasn't bad, this one isn't bad to do either, in the sense that it's natural, it's normal to have different parts of us that have different needs or different fears, but it's not necessarily going to be helpful. So whilst it's not like it's your intention to stay unwell, some of these behaviors, because they'll affect our beliefs, can keep us stuck. So I hope that makes sense, and please ask any questions if you're unsure of anything that I've just explained. It can be hard to get your head around, because essentially your experience is valid, and telling other people is not a bad thing, and showing other people that this is a real illness is not a bad thing. But if you are getting stuck into wanting it to be a real illness that is difficult to treat and that needs a physical cure, and that you know that you're sort of on a quest for others to get on board with this, and maybe there's parts of you that are getting something out of being unwell, then that's not going to help with getting back to normal life again. And it's not easy to be in this position where you're not well, and it's certainly not easy to be dismissed. It's an awful experience, and it's a real shame that these conditions don't get taken as seriously. And you'll see that a lot of my videos are around how emotions cause symptoms. But when I say any of that, it's never in any way invalidating the symptoms that you experience, the severity of how difficult it is, or the impact that has on you, because I've been there myself, and yeah, I mean, I know how difficult it is, and it's difficult to get out of it. It's not easy. So yeah, hopefully this video was in some way useful, and even if it's just a prompt to start reflecting on your intentions behind what you're saying to others, and noticing if you're still in a mindset where you want to convince others that you are unwell, then it's something to reflect on. So thank you for listening, and if you have anything in particular that you'd like me to talk about, feel free to mention that in a comment. I have a private Facebook group that people are welcome to join. If you're not already in the group, I'll put a link below. And if you found this helpful and you'd like to see other videos around the topic of chronic fatigue syndrome or long COVID and similar conditions, then please like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.